courageous project. I'm sure it was a challenging, complicated project. And although we're sad not to have the director, Xiaoling Zhang, with us tonight, my understanding is that this project was initiated by Film Tank, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how this came about.
Yeah, thank you. So many greetings from Xiaoling. You already heard her little speech, so I try to replace her as best as I can today. And she should have been here. And as you said, it was a very long journey from the very beginning, the first idea, nearly 5 years ago. So Film Tank and Interactive Media Foundation, we are two companies, and we are kind of involved in topics how the digital world changes the analog world, and we do a lot of topics which deal with digitalization. And when we started the project, we wanted to dig deeper into the topic how the global surveillance is rising with digital tools and techniques, and that's the reason why we try to find a good example, and we contacted Xiaoling. So the initial idea came from us, but Xiaoling is really kind of very experienced in doing topics with complicated backgrounds, and you saw how deep she digged into the topic, and we are happy and glad that we made the film together.
Yeah, and I mean, this is especially unusual in that I assume the director, Xiaoling, was not in China making this film, that this was really directed remotely.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could, I mean, I'm sure the audience noticed that there are many names in the credits that just say anonymous. And I'm wondering how, given that the people who were working on this film in China must have been putting themselves at great personal risk. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the measures that Film Tank and the team had to take to ensure the security of the project and of the people who were participating in it.
Yeah, you're right. So from the very beginning, we knew this is a very risky project, and but with Xiaoling on board, she already did several projects in a similar way, so she knows how to work from doing remote work. So she has a team she can really rely on. And of course,
I'm sorry, was that One Child Nation was also a film that she had co-directed?
Yeah, that's right.
Remotely as well.
Yeah, yeah. And especially another film about when the pandemic was kind of rising, she was conducting remotely as well. And that means, of course, we had to be very careful with how to shoot, not to expose our team to risks, and we knew some red lines we didn't want to step over, and I cannot go too deep into detail because as you can think about that part of the team members are still anonymous, and we have to keep it like it is. Some of the team members left China when the film was released in March, and some of the protagonists you saw that they also left, and that's the reason why we have to be really careful not to expose the other ones, but everybody's safe. That is something I can say, and we are in constant kind of contact, because doing such a film is not doing only a film, it's a kind of obligation which lasts for a very, very long time, because we don't want to expose the people, and it's a tricky thing, I can tell you.
It must be. Sophia, the journalist, a very high profile journalist, and at the end we learned that she is awaiting trial. Is there any updates since this film was made that you can talk about?
Yes, so Sophia had her trial in September, and so she's such a brave young woman, and the way she is talking and standing up in the film, she continues. So that means she was kind of pushed to confess something, and she said, I haven't to confess anything because I'm writing, I'm a journalist, and so the result was that she was sentenced to, I think, 3 years in prison, and that's the result which came out, but she didn't want to let her break down. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. You know, when I watched this film, I felt like, you know, it's easy for us Americans to look at some of the high-tech surveillance and the human surveillance in China and feel like, you know, that's so extreme and it's just never going to come around here. But obviously, we all are surveyed quite thoroughly in the United States, and you know, there's even the example of, I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers remember that just earlier this year, the owner of Madison Square Garden, James Dolan, was using facial recognition technology to capture any lawyers who were walking into Radio City Music Hall or Madison Square Garden, any lawyers who had litigation against MSG. And you know, that's an example of private company using it for their own purposes. Have you seen in Europe, have you seen surveillance that feels like it's moving in that insidious direction as well?
Yes, and it's kind of proceeding very rapidly, and so we had a screening in Hamburg in Germany, and there was a very intense discussion after the film as well, and Hamburg is an example what we are expecting, or what is taking place actually. So, for example, AI software is connected with CCTV cameras. It sounds a little bit like Minority Report in presence. So that means they want to check and to prevent crime before it happens, and they are kind of testing it. This is only one example I know in the preparation for the Olympic Games in France and Paris. They are also planning digital surveillance tools combined with AI to, of course, in the name of security all the time. So we are expecting a lot of things, and we have the same technique, and we share it worldwide, and I think the film shows when it's in the hand of unchecked power, what can happen then, and so it's mirroring, but we have to be careful. I come from Germany. We have much pressure, political pressure on our democracy now. There's a lot of movement, and we are not expecting the best, but we are still a democracy, and here we're talking about dictatorship, and this is something a dictatorship can do with digital technologies, and so it is kind of comparable in terms of technical possibilities, but it's still, I hope, far away.
Yeah, we're still something like a democracy, representative democracy, I guess is what you would call us. I'm gonna just one more question, then we'll go to the audience. But just getting back to the production in China, you said that this project was shot over the course of this project was developed over the course of about 5 years or so. So what, in terms of surveillance and privacy, was there a noticeable change during COVID? Was COVID used as an excuse to further encroach on the privacy of some of the characters in this film?
Yes, it was, and I think you see it in the film. It's a very important part, the last part of the film. And during our shooting, the pressure was rising, and I think the possibility that you kind of install a worldwide system in the name of health is not only in China, we also have it. So everybody is wearing the little mobile phone with the health app. We had it in Germany as well, and in China it was a possibility to block people, to ban people, and to use it and abuse it for political purposes. And so we didn't have similar things in Europe until now going around, but the infrastructure and the data is out, and a lot of people were talking about what can happen, because it's the best surveillance tool ever you can have.
Okay, so we can take questions from the audience. Brooke can hand a microphone around.
Give me a wave if you have a
Just
question.
give her a wave, and we'll start in the back.
Good evening. Thank you for the wonderful movie. My question is, while you were in Germany, did you feel like the Chinese government was somehow able to interfere with your activity, although you were in Germany?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, how can I frame it? I think it might be a part of unwritten rules. So, if you're gonna do such a film, I'm pretty sure that we are constantly monitored. Although we try to encrypt emails, the entire communication was encrypted. Mobile phones were kind of used once, whatever. So a lot of security needs. But I'm pretty sure this is a kind of part of a bad game. So that means the more successful the film is, the more the pressure is rising. And I think the Chinese government is expecting that Westerners make this kind of films, and as long as it bothers not too much, it's okay for them. And so that's my kind of summary for it. But we are pretty sure that it was well known what we are doing there.
Okay, I think there's another question right here in the third row.
I was really struck by the fact that everything, all the physical universe that's in this film is flaming new. Everything is absolutely brand new. In some years, when it begins to degrade and begins to look ugly, do you think that the Chinese population will be quite as happy to go along with what's being done with them today? And what would China be like if there were no surveillance, if there were no electronic media? Because it's all so huge. I mean, it's so huge. It's just unthinkable. How would they organize themselves if they did not have this world of electronic surveillance?
You have to help me. It's a tricky question, because the reality is that the technique is around. So how can we kind of speculate how it would be without the technical possibilities? What I learned, perhaps, so the title of the film, Total Trust, is of course a bitter, ironic quote, but you might have seen in the film that within the pandemic times, there was a politician saying that the trust in the government was rising to 98%. How they kind of react on the pandemic times, and how they try to conduct the whole society. I think this might reflect how the Chinese society works because a lot of people embrace the possibility that there is a kind of control, there's security. All this security and surveillance tools are often kind of installed to set up security, and they have a lot of problems. It's such a vast country, 1.3 billion people, and there's a lot of mistrust, and that's the reason why the average Chinese people think, okay, it's better that there's control than there's a lot of political, what is my English is so poor to explain it, but I hope you get what I mean.
Do you think that we're the same?
Corruption. I was searching for the word corruption because corruption is very widespread there in different provinces. So a lot of people think if there's a good control system, the corruption will go down, and that's the reason why these technical surveillance tools are often kind of embraced.
I mean, look, a lot of Americans have, consented to giving away information that 30 years ago they never would have thought. That, I mean, facial recognition, fingerprinting, giving out your social security number it's nothing. So,
We
are
have a
there
question,
more
right?
questions? There's one.
We have one right over here, and then I'll
Oh,
this one.
yes, right on the aisle.
Hi, thank you so much for the film and for being here. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about audience, and I'm curious whether there was conversation among the filmmakers about making the film for a Western audience, the sort of dynamics and potential pitfalls of that.
So did I understand it right? You think this film is especially made for Western audience?
Well, in the filmmaking, how did the sort of possibility of the Western audience impact the decision making?
So what was?
Do you think Xiaoling made this film for a Western audience, or any specific kind of audience?
I think the reason why it's a perfect match. Xiaoling has both perspectives. She has the possibility to look as native Chinese, but she has a certain distance as well, because she's been living in the US, I think, since 10 years, and that's the reason why she tried to make the film, I think, in a very balanced way. She doesn't accuse all the time, she tries to describe, and she didn't want to make, I hope it comes through, not a simple China bashing film. This is something, it was very important that she tried to point out what happens if this technical, these possibilities are in the hand of unchecked power. What does it mean for other societies as well? She wanted to have the comparison, although the entire film, of course, is shot in China, and it's a film about China, and it's a view into the mirror.
I think it has universal relevance, really.
We have a question here in the center, and then there's a gentleman over here. We're
Okay,
next.
let's start in the center, please.
Hello. Thank you for being with us tonight. As someone who moved from China to New York like 10 years ago, the level of surveillance is, mind-blowing to me. So thank you for being with us here tonight. I'd like to know what, based on your observation, what's like the reception or feedback you've seen from the Chinese diaspora from your screenings across different countries.
So obviously, the film cannot be shown officially in China, but thinks it will spread in a different way, and that works, and that was also the idea itself, that if the film is out, there are a lot of possibilities to share the film. So it has an impact, and it's spread and shared. More I cannot say, because we are waiting for reaction as well, and we have to be careful, of course. Yeah.
I meant by like what I'm sure there were like Chinese diaspora, like Chinese communities living in those cities. What have their like how have they reacted to the film, if there was any way for you to observe?
In Europe, the Chinese communities are not so big, and we didn't have so much reaction directly from Chinese communities. So I think now it's starting, because we have the US release now here, and so please ask me a little bit later when the film is spread.
Right, so the film premiered in CPH Docs in Copenhagen, right? That was in March. And then has it been released theatrically in Germany since then? Yeah.
In October we had the German release.
Okay. And then it premiered in the US at the Doc NYC Festival just last month. So it is very new. Yeah.
So we had one back over
Okay.
here.
Well, you answered half of my question. The other half is, where else is it going to be shown here in the US?
So it will be shown in Canada as well. And in the US, I think in San Francisco, in LA, so the big cities. And I think wonderful cinemas like Film Forum.
Yeah.
So
It does have a US distributor, Film Movement, so it will be making its way around. I know, yeah, it does have a Los Angeles opening and a San Francisco opening.
and it also already had a festival career. So that means there was in the US, no, in Canada, we had the possibility to show it at the Hot Docs Film Festival, and that was a very passionate discussion as well. So the Hot Docs folks is really documentary kind of addicted, and they were very engaged, and I had the possibility to go there as well, and it was a wonderful experience, because people wanted to discuss a lot.
And there's one, right over here.
I noticed the subjects of your film were Chinese, and you didn't have any discussion of this tool being used targeting minorities like Uyghurs or Tibetans. And I wondered the decision making there to sort of keep it really out of the fringes, and if you had discussions about perhaps providing alternate narratives.
Yes, so I think if you make a film like this is another film. So because then you have to really concentrate on this topic, and there are some films around, and of course it's so challenging to do a film in this community, and we know what's going on there, or at least we assume what's going on there. But the film we did tries to concentrate on average people and how surveillance creeps into their daily life, and to my opinion it's a little bit different, and you cannot mix it up. Then you have kind of TV documentary, and you try to cover this part of the topic and that part of the topic, and the main basic idea was to capture the emotion, and this is a observational documentary, very close, and I hope it came through how it feels like to be monitored and surveyed 24/7, and all our protagonists are they didn't start as human rights activists, for example. So it's a development, and we wanted to show it how it feels like in the middle of the society, and that was our main target.
And how it affects their families. I mean, and really the sacrifices that they're making, the risks that they're taking, seem very focused on these three activists. Any more questions?
Final questions from the audience?
Okay, so Michael, thank you so much for this. It's a fascinating documentary and really great.
Thank you for coming and sharing it.